So the last of the forms we will deal with in the series of videos on database programming is the FRM order entry that will take orders from existing customers in a fairly rudimentary way. We would also need a form that would allow us to add new customers, manage existing and new employees, and a number of other forms and reports providing additional functionality. A multi-form project like that would then begin to resemble a real database application. Needless to state, editing databases by inserting new rows, updating existing rows, or deleting what we no longer need is more dangerous than just retrieving existing information. This is why the code is sometimes more tedious and elaborate than what one would sort of care for, I guess. The last of the four forms, as I just mentioned, the FRM order entry, is a simplified version of an order entry form for existing customers. After selecting the customer, the user chooses the product, specifies quantity, and adds these into the shopping cart, represented by a data grid view, by clicking on the Add to Cart button, as you'll see shortly. There is no functionality for editing the shopping cart or for deleting items from the shopping cart other than closing the form and starting again. That simply, is beyond the scope of what I wanted to demonstrate here now. After all the products and quantities intended for purchase were added to the shopping cart, the order is ready to be placed by clicking on the Place Order button. The click event behind this button is responsible for adding the single new record into order table and one or more records into order detail table, depending on a particular order. For order table entry, we need to generate a new unique order ID. Use the existing customer ID from the customer list box. We will make up an employee ID, although we could have had another list of employees and add the actual one, create an order date, and insert all those four pieces of data into order table. Once the new order row is in the order table, we will process the one or more inserts into order detail table, depending on whether one or multiple products were ordered. We will find all of the different product IDs and quantities and add those together with the newly generated order ID into order detail table. Again, there's no functionality for updating or deleting orders, managing customers and employees, but all those would be added to make our order processing database application more professional and complete. Now, let me switch to the sporting goods project to demonstrate what I just talked about in the last two slides by closing the FRM cust orders from the previous video and then displaying the order entry in a design form first. Right? So the list of customers is displayed in the first list box. The list of products together with their retail prices are displayed in the second box. One of these is selected at a time. The quantity is by default set to 1, but it can be changed to a higher number, and then that particular product at those quantities is added to the shopping cart, which becomes a new row in this data grid view. Okay, this can then be repeated as many times as necessary, and each time a new item or new product with new quantities added to the shopping cart, the order total is updated. Once the shopping cart is complete, in other words, everything that we wanted to purchase was purchased, then we click on the button on Place Order, which will then insert those appropriate rows, one in the order table and at least one, maybe a few more, maybe two, maybe three into the order details table as just described. So to see how that's done with the code, we will all switch to the code view again. Starting at the top of the table, it looks exactly the same as the previous cust orders load event with first of all connection string at the top, loading of each of the four tables, followed by creating of the customer list with the full name and customer ID, literally the same, just copy pasted. What was added is the list of products, okay, together concatenated right here, concatenated together with the retail prices formatted as currency. Okay, then the product ID is the one that's sort of hidden as a value member, the way the customer ID was or is right here. The products selected were of inventory item type or kit items. In other words, services and some of the other miscellaneous things were excluded, so only tangible products, okay, for which the inventory exists. Then the standard Again, data adapter, data set scheme was executed here, and the list of product names with their prices were added to the list. Okay, after that, the combo box, so this is the list of products I'm talking about, the combo box for quantities was populated with numbers 1 through 30, and the quantity of 1 using this selected index equals 0 was selected by default. Then the last part of the form load event sort of designs or defines the data grid, the shopping cart data grid, the 4 columns: product, quantity, line total, and then the ID, which is actually hidden with this last line of code here, but we need it to retrieve it later on when we go and update the order detail table. There are some of these again formatting width and cell styles pieces that are not terribly important. Okay, so after you load, let me just demonstrate quickly, making sure first of all that the order entry is the startup form. So as a result of the form load that I just described, we will have the list of customers, the list of products with their retail prices, default quantity of 1, but others are available, and then we'll have sort of blank shopping cart here. And I'm going to close it right now as I continue the sort of walk through the code. Okay, so the 2 buttons that we need to discuss are obviously the add to cart button, which will take for a particular customer a list of one product at a time with a given selected quantity and add it to the shopping cart. So that's the first one. Okay, so for that one, for the add to the shopping cart click event, we define several of these variables that are needed to hold the product ID, product name, retail price, and line total and order total as well. So the product ID is simply grabbed from the list box through the selected value combined with the value member property. Okay, so that's like straight up goes into the product variable. The temporary string is actually the currently selected product name / retail price combo, which we then, using the index of and substring, a substring index of method and substring method of strings, we essentially parse into retail price and the product name. Okay, so that's just a sort of basic IDSC 3101 parsing, right? So that product name is then separated from retail price, which is converted to double. The quantity is then grabbed directly from that quantity drop down or combo box, and then at that point we have all the information that we need. We have a product ID, we have a product name, retail price, and quantity. We calculate the line total by multiplying quantity with the retail price, and then we add those, how many, 1 2 3 4 pieces of information into the grid. Remember, the product ID is hidden. So as a display, you'll see the product name, how many were ordered of that product, 1, 2, or whatever, and what was the line total. Then, just like we did before, we're going to sort of loop through that grid instead of looping through the data set, and we're going to increment the order total variable and then display the current total at the bottom. Before we go and pick presumably the second product we want to add to the shopping cart, we're going to reset the quantity back to 1. Okay, otherwise, there's a danger that when we add the second product, it'll add 10 of them, and we really just want only 1. So it's just a sort of nice feature. So now at this point, we've added at least one, or maybe 2 or 3 products with quantities to that shopping cart. Okay, and we have the current running order total. And the last thing to discuss was placing of the order. So the placing of the order click event, what it does, it essentially performs the table inserts, okay, into both order and order detail tables. And the information it needs to perform the inserts are the following. For the order table, we need the order ID, customer ID, order date, and we need an employee ID that we'll just simply make up because we just don't want to deal with them Okay, for the insert into the order detail table, we need one or more product IDs. Okay, that same order ID that we generated for the order, and then the quantity for each of the products. Okay, so that's why these variables are sort of defined here as they are. The num detail is going to be used to sort of count how many details are 1, 2, or 3 in that shopping cart. How many shopping cart elements really are there, right? You can literally see that from the next line of code here. Okay, if the number of details is greater than 1, because remember there's always a blank row, right? If you just run this, the count of the shopping cart is a blank row of 1. So there has to be at least 2, 3, or more, which essentially means, again, 1 or 2 or more order details. Then we'll get the customer ID directly out of the customer list box. We get the order date, but by taking the today's date, and then we add 9 years just to sort of line up the dates here. 9 years from now is 2026. As you probably noticed, all the dates in the database are game to be in 2025, so it just puts it sort of in the same, I suppose, decade certainly, and next to each other. So it doesn't mean otherwise it would have obviously been the current date, and we kind of obviously added the time stamped down to an hour, minute, and second. The new order ID is generated using the generate order ID function, which simply, if you scroll down to the bottom, okay, selects all the orders, all the current order ID from the order table, and using the whole adapter data set scheme, and then goes through that data set or its existing table, and then compares and then finds essentially the maximum. Okay, and then returns one more than that. So if the maximum order ID is, I don't know, 1000, is going to return 1001. Then you have that new order ID for that new generated order, right? So you have the customer ID, you have the order date, you have order ID, and we'll assume again we have employee ID. We'll just make it up, which are the 4 pieces of information, 1, 2, 3, and the employee ID is 4. That is going to get inserted into the order table through this order table adapter scheme. Okay, so this is the equivalent of using the insert into values type of SQL statement that you might have seen in IDSC 3103. The same approach will be used for inserting associated order details using order detail table adapter, down here and down here. Okay, so the only thing we need to do, we need to loop through the shopping cart, right? Through the shopping cart, extracting product IDs from the, okay, so product ID is the third cell, which means 4th column. The 4th column is, if you scroll up, 4th column is the last one, right? Product name is first, retail price is second. Wait, that's not the one. Wait a sec. Where were we? Right here. Product is the first, quantity is second, line total is the 4th, and ID the 3rd, and ID is the 4th, right? So we grab that ID. Now I have to find where I was. Quantity is in the 2nd column, and then if the product ID is greater than 0, because remember again the blank row issue, then we insert the combination of the new order ID, that particular product ID, and that particular quantity into the order detail table. And we don't do that at least once, presumably 2 or 3 times, depending if it's a more, I guess, elaborate order. And then display the message boxes saying that the order with the order ID was successfully placed. And then if the user did not add anything to the shopping cart, then there's going to be only one blank row, in which case the message is going to say that he needs to place at least one product in the shopping cart before you can obviously place an order. Okay, we talked about generating order ID, and that is really it. Okay, so again, you can kind of see in more sort of elaborate scheme here, right? But in a nutshell, the form load, loads the customers, loads the product / retail prices, and then sort of sets up the shopping cart here. Then add to cart click event adds the products with their quantities and calculates the line items and current order total um, in that data grid view. And then finally, once ready, the place order button click event essentially inserts new order over here, and then new order detail, at least one, perhaps two or three, into the order detail table. And this is just a function that generates a new unique order ID. Okay, so to demonstrate, we are going to just run one order insert. I think I'm good here, right? I got the order entry. I'm gonna run it. Okay, I'm going to pick a customer, doesn't matter which one, and I'm gonna let's say Lundalen or McDonald's. Same, there you go. Baseball bat, add to cart. So he orders one baseball bat, about $230. Let's say Sam here is into baseball. Two pairs of gloves, I'm guessing. Okay, running total is about $300, and then let's say one baseball uniform. Okay, so that total looks like about, what was it, $300, $350, right? Okay, and then place order should say your order number 2122 was successfully placed. Okay, and that's it. So now to go here and check under the database folder, in your case lectures folder, in my case is slides and scripts, under sporting goods, and under the bin debug sporting goods modified right now, a minute ago, should have in the order table at the very bottom this new order 2122 order ID, customer one, apparently 172 is Sam McDonald's ID. Employer ID was made up to be one, that doesn't matter, and today's date is January 13th 2017, plus 9 years is 2026. That one then matches with, I had 3 order details. Okay, now I forgot what it was. It was what, baseball, let's see, 104, 105, and 107, right? 104, 105, 107, right? So 104, one baseball bat, it was $229. Okay, then 105 was 2 pairs of baseball gloves, $35 each, and then finally 107 was the uniform right here for $50. Okay, so if you want to, test it again, you're welcome to. I am going to sort of manually, delete these from here and for here, so I can recreate these in the future if I need to. I'll close this database, switch back to the presentation, and then just briefly summarize. Okay, so we are at the end of our video series. I believe there were 5 videos on database programming, from introduction of basic relational database concepts shown at the top of the slide, to querying databases from within an application program written in VB, to a simple database application that has the ability to take and display customer orders for a list of products, as just demonstrated. After we complete additional in-class examples, you will be ready to start working on the 3rd assignment for this class.